everybody. Happy Friday. It's Rise and Shine. It's coffee time with me, Jenn Stone, soul therapist, clinical hypnotherapist, Reiki master, energy healer. So yes, it's morning time and it's morning hair. Good morning, Purple Princess. Good morning, Diane. How are you guys today? Hope your day is starting off with a beautiful bang. And it's Friday. And I'd like to say it's actually a cup of coffee, but it's not because I am. His hair is pretty awesome right here. Hang on. Yes, there we go. It's a little more. But it's my apple cider vinegar and water. Coffee is next. So you guys kind of get me in this. I haven't had my coffee yet. But the apple cider vinegar and hot water is actually working amazingly with my bloating. So I was doing some research on this and thought I'd give it a try. And I do not recommend, if you're going to do this, not making sure like you have a good sized cup of water, because you can burn your esophagus. I know somebody who was doing this for this very reason in gut health, and they were shooting it. Now, like, nope, straight up, no. But it did burn your esophagus, so you have to be careful with this. So I always have a good sized cup of water with it. That way, it's kind of reminds me of that apple cider winter drink. You know, the one you get when you're at Christmas time and it's cold outside without the extra sugar. So that's how I'm programming my brain around this. And it did take a little programming. Good morning, Stone. Thank you for being here. So this week has been an interesting week. I got to tell you, there's been a lot going on. I actually want to talk about some sessions that happened. And it's funny how sessions come up and topics come up in like bundles. I don't know why. I think it's an interesting process with the universe that when one person books and they have this theme that they're working through, and I say theme because there's multiple facets to every theme, but it seems that everybody that week has some odd, unconnected, connected connection to it. And what I mean by that, well, this week it was a loss this week. So loss, the fear of loss, the pain of loss, the grief of loss, the connection and the outcome of loss. And so that was kind of like the theme of everybody's sessions this week. And it's weird because I never talk about it individually. And we just kind of like, people come forward and they book and they tell me what they want to work on, and we go from there. Or the people that I've worked with before, and we've been progressively working. But I always, when we're working together, I think it's super, super important to do a daily journal or a daily kind of like moment where you kind of write down your thoughts. You guys know, I text myself. I love texting myself. It's my way of getting it done or a voice record. Like yesterday I was driving. I had to run an errand, and 2 ideas came in for my book that I am about to be writing. And so I've got the 2 books now and the idea of how to write them to make it a little bit easier. I just have to figure out the technology side of things because I'm dyslexic. So when I write, my brain works way faster than what my fingers can type. My brain can write, and I leave out words, but I don't actually, in my head, those words are there. So when you go back and you reread something, it's like, that doesn't make any sense. You are missing you are missing when, but in my brain, when I edit, that's why I can't edit my work unless I actually listen to it. Then I can edit it quite well. But if I go back and reread it, because I will see the words there. It's something that I've struggled with all my life. And I really did figure out how to work around it when I was in high school, because I wasn't willing to admit it that in high school that I had this problem, this issue. And we didn't have a name for it back then. We have a name for it now. But yeah, so I just had to kind of figure things out. So I'm in this process of figuring out the technology, and then I'm pretty pumped about getting these books down. But it was funny because, having the voice option on my iPhone and then on my phone and just texting myself, that is how I kind of make sure I jot down those moments so I don't lose those moments, because I cannot tell you how many times in the world I've had these moments, these aha, brilliant kind of creative, inspired thoughts and not taking the time to write them down or voice record them or text them to myself. And always tell myself, you remember, keep keep the conversation going, keep going. And I get distracted about something or something happens and I lose my train of thought and bomb, it's gone. And it's weird because when I'm channeling, I don't often remember what, I remember the presence and the essence of the conversation, but I don't remember the details. It's like I'm out here, I'm above, I'm like, and somebody, another soul, another energy like being is kind of coming through, connecting through my physical body and speaking. So I'm not directly, conscious of the conversation. I mean, I'm aware so that there's obviously boundaries there for me with channeling. I have my strict rules, but I can't go back and be like, that was definitely the conversation. So when this stuff happens, it makes it, I always think I'm going to remember, and I don't. I honestly don't. Sometimes it comes back later at a later date. I'm like, see, most of the time it doesn't. And then I sit there and I'm like, oh my God, that idea, what was it? And you're trying to figure it out, and it's gone. It's gone in the moment. It's been given back to the ether, and somebody else is going to grab it. So, which is fine because obviously, clearly, I didn't want it that badly. And my next, moment will happen. But yeah, so I had this moment while I was driving, and I utilized the fact that I, was in too much of a hurry to pull over. So I voice recorded it through my watch, but so it's there. And so I'm working out the technology side of things. I have this vision of how the technology should work to make this a little bit easier, but can't actually say if it works that way. So we will see. We'll see if my intuition was right or wrong on that one. I'm sure there's a way to do it. I just got to figure out how to do it. And lately, I've not been the most technical person around, so it's going to take a little bit of digging. But I'm excited about that. But I just want to give you a reminder is make the time, take the action to put down those notes, because whether you take action on that now or later in 10 years, that's totally and completely up to you. You will do that when you line up with it. But in that, bringing it into the tangible world, but having it there and knowing that it's in your back pocket and that you've got this, and that when you're ready and willing, you can do something with it, really does make a difference. Because then and it comes, just how this comes full circle. It comes back to the constantly triggering feeling lost when we don't do this. So every time we don't take the time to write down these inspirational ideas, we begin to trigger that experience and that, welcome to the morning show. This is their, they're excited. They have their playtime in the morning. And so you trigger that remembrance of loss. And loss can be triggered in so many different ways, and it can represent so many different things that we don't actually realize it. And it kind of made me think, like, this is what got me thinking, was during these sessions with these clients this week, everybody's loss was different. I'm gonna sneeze. Okay. Nope. I think I got it. All right. And everybody's reason for connecting through loss or experiencing loss, and that loss impacting their incarnation, was very different and the spectrum was quite wide. A lot of it came from an alternate past life that was triggered in this life, and then it became a theme and a pattern throughout the life that kind of spider web into different avenues of both professional and personal lives. And the one was, it was imprinted at birth. And that birth, there was a moment actually before the birth actually happened, where there was an event that baby experienced while in the tummy of their mother. And when they were in this experience, because they were so divinely connected in all ways, they actually began to absorb the fears that the people, the doctors, the parents of this person were experiencing and began to absorb it as their own. And not intentionally, because it was just one of those things that you are connected to your family and you can take on generational and ancestral and parental perceptions. We do this. It's a part of our experience in this life. And when that baby was born, in the moment of physical contact, and then the events that followed that birth, that baby really began to absorb her parental their emotions. It was the emotions that was happening. So what that did was, not at the time, it didn't, that was the origins in this life. It actually came past life experiences, several past lives all at once. And the original one was actually a very mundane life. It was a very simple, easy life of survival and just being human, and the masculine side of human. So being in the masculine energy, being a masculine, and kind of just going through life. There was no major event in that life, except for the fact that in that life, the loss was around that soul's family members. They passed, and that grief, that loss was so impactful that soul didn't recover in that life like they had planned to. They kind of took a Y on that journey and ended up not living the life they were supposed to, because there was a pivotal moment of realization of this, softness, and this softness now integrating into this that was very masculine. And then the why happened when their family passed. And so that was carried forward. And at that moment in this life, that trigger of that experience became active. And then throughout this person's life, every time they perceive some form of loss, whether it be friendship, whether it be romantic, whether it be professional, whether it be family, it was compounded that they needed to fear loss because they wouldn't survive loss. And so that was really heavily weighing on this person. And it definitely affected that person's ability to create and be creative, because it ended up turning up into this moment of preventing this person from moving forward. And in that not moving forward, they continue to relive the old and relive the, parts of their life in the old energy, where parts of their life had already evolved into, what people call ascension. And so there's this conflict happening, and there was no resolution. It was constantly an imbalance of stretching into the ascension, awakened space, and then, but living and having pieces in that low vibe fear space. And what a difference it was, what a up and down experience that was creating, both personally and professionally, for this person. And the resolution of that is that person then stepped into their creation and allowed themselves to be fully intact with their ability to manifest and create. So it'll be really interesting to watch this person transition into the full force of their life force energy, and utilizing their ability to take energy, thought, and bring it down into the physical reality and what that means for them. So and the other couple sessions were, good morning, Alex, thank you for being here, was resolving the effect of loss, both present life and alternate past life, and the connections between both, and being able to resolve the past life and then come to the present life and seeing where the origins of that emotion, that experience connected into, and release that. But a lot of the time you don't have to come back to the present now to unwind things, because once you've unwound them at the original point of creation and origin, the ripple effect happens through. But it's always interesting to see, when they know their pattern, how that pattern and their perception and their imprint upon that pattern, the imprint of that pattern upon them, instantly, automatically changes, and the point of view of that experience begins to reveal itself very differently, in a more of a matter-of-fact way instead of an emotional way, because a lot of this work that we're doing is emotional imprints, the imprints and presence of our emotions that create our experience and also create our story, and that's where we live from. So changing the story always allows us into a space of release and recovering the core pieces of our inner self that is very much in alignment with our purpose and our mission. So taking time to not only make a couple notes on what you know, some patterns you are reworking through or coming up again, and sitting with them and asking yourself, what does this mean to you? These patterns, the one that we're going to be doing live in May, we're doing it. It's happening at the end of May. The last Wednesday in May, we're going to go live. And like this pattern of holding on to people, things that no longer serve me, this is a pattern that I can definitely walk you guys through in my life. I don't think it comes from this life. Matter of fact, I'm pretty sure it does, but I've not tried. Like, I tried to avoid connecting into it because I want it to be I don't want to know anything before we do this live, but we're going to do this live because changing those patterns change how we work and how we create and where we create from. So noticing your patterns, becoming aware of your patterns, you back instantly so much more of your power, because you begin to see how you process through life in those patterns. And as you begin to become aware and conscious of the pattern, you get into a space of choice. One of the things that I've done with this pattern, and I've noticed it, and I've noticed it more that I finally accepted the fact that this is a pattern that I have experienced over and over and over again. It's easier to walk away from it. It's easier to go, no, I'm going to set that boundary, and I'm going to place that boundary here. And there are emotions around placing those boundaries because I'm mad that I have to do it, but that's a whole other thing. But yeah, so as I've become consciously aware, and I've accepted the fact that, yes, my friend was totally right, and I knew it. She wasn't telling me anything I didn't know. I just wasn't willing to let it be in the conscious space, because I didn't really want. It was like kind of in that, I've had that conversation with myself, and I'm like, yeah, I'll get to that. I'll do that later. One of those conversations that I did not write down, did not make a note on. And so what it took was for a friend of mine to be like, hey, blah. And I was like, damn it. So we are doing that Wednesday. What's the date? The 31st, actually, the last Wednesday of May. And so funny thing is, I just want you guys to see the process, what it's like to do an interactive session, what it's like, so that your session won't be exactly like my session, but it will give you an idea of all the steps. And Jenn is going to use this as a teaching process. So she's going to teach through it, because I can easily go into hypnosis quite quickly, get into that deep space of trance. And so, and it doesn't really distract me with other noises and people doing stuff in the background. So she's going to teach from each point to let you guys know, at this point. And we're going to make an educational purpose as well. For me, it'll be a healing purpose, and it will be very raw. So there's going to be probably a lot of emotion in a part of this. But if any of you are curious about what that's going to look like, or what an interactive session really does entail, we're going to try and, we're going to go where I need to go. So there will be in depths. There may be, maybe this life, maybe a past life. I don't know yet, but we'll go where we need to go. But you guys will kind of see the process of how we get you that space where you can guide yourself, and also show you how you will have all the answers that you need for yourself, and how you'll have the answers, and you'll naturally, innately, intuitively have those answers, and be able to utilize that inner guidance and wisdom and knowledge and knowingness to help create your profound healing experience, profound shifting and transformational experience. And how it is truly a client-based therapy where, we as hypnotherapists and coaches aren't giving you the answers. We're just giving you the tools to find and discover your answers. So it's going to be very, very interesting. Thank you. I'm like nervous. I'm not nervous. I think it's more the nervousness for me is excitement to share this with you guys, because I love this process. I freaking adore this process. I honestly think this process is worth way more than anybody really understands until you experience it. And not only do I feel blessed and honored every day and grateful for the work that I get to do with people, but it has made such an impact on my own life. And, I remember when I first started this journey, they said, you can't be a therapist if you still have stuff. And I sat with that belief system for a long time, and I worked really hard to clear out all of my stuff. And then I got to a point where I remember realizing that the door will always be open if I'm willing to walk through it, to discover more about who I am and to integrate more of my light body into this physical reality. But in doing so, I have to break through the space of forgetting and the space of being human and in a human mindset and a human mind frame, and to be able to find balance with both, to have the human experience while awakening and opening up that soul knowledge, wisdom, and knowingness, and integrating it into the human experience to elevate and level up the experience, journey, and incarnation. So, now the work that I do on myself, it is like an overview of understanding. So the last session I did was an overview of understanding. And it was like watching a video. I've actually never really been a partial regression. I'm always a full regress. Like I'm in there. I'm feeling, I'm experiencing everything from smells, textures, light, emotion. Like I really do live the incarnation that I step into. And which is amazing for me. I always love that experience, good, bad, or indifferent. I love that full regression, that full integration into those moments and being so present in that experience. However, the last one I did, I was a remote viewer. I was partially regressed. I was watching the scene. I actually had a moment where I thought to myself, is this even my lifetime, or is this a generational kind of an ancestral lifetime where I was not a part of, but my lineage was a part of, that needs to come in and bring those souls in so they can heal the trauma that experience no longer cellularly, if emotionally, physically, mentally, vibrationally affects me. But I was quickly got the answer, oh no, this is yours. Now shut up and listen. And yes, my guides are like, they're very pointed with me. So I got to remote view this entire experience. And actually, as I was describing this to the person I was working with, it was like I was going through the life. Normally we would move you through the life, and I was just moving myself through the life, explaining every step of the way and watching it from above. And I went through the transition of the passing in that life, and I let the person know that I was on the other side of passing that life and no longer in that body, and starting to talk about the purpose of that life and what I experienced, but also the interconnected web that life had created since that incarnation in 7 different lifetimes, from those 7 different lifetimes to this incarnation, and the patterns in this lifetime that were birthed from that experience, and kind of this overview of my entire incarnation thus point till the other day, and how that was had created so many different interconnected web. It was just very, very profound, very cool to kind of step back and have that witness and observer perspective of what it was that I was working on, and how that had kind of leaked into different avenues and aspects of the life. So it was very neat to have that experience, because I've never really had that experience unless it was a generational connection that I had to draw on their souls that were no longer on this physical plane, but because I was the physical component to their lineage, they could come through and we could invite the souls that were in, like everybody that was in the experience, because I could hold that tangible space of being the physical embodiment on earth, because that's where the trauma was created, and have them come in and do their healing. And really at that point, it's just that life isn't mine, so I'm not actually divine. I'm not connected to it fully. Just allowing my process that I created for generational healing go through that process as the person that is the one holding the space. But really, once those other souls have created their own healing space, it's profoundly cool how it just ripples through the lineage and no longer is interconnected to those who have. And that healing happens from, because when I first kind of stumbled onto generational healing, it was not something we were taught in school. It's not something we were really given a lot of insight on. Once you guys know, it's kind of me, and I end up doing all this stuff, and so now I can teach it. But I remember it was a client had gone back to a life that they were not a part of. They had no real emotional connection to it. And I just remember asking, is this your life? And they said no. And I'm like, okay, so whose life is this? And they're like, it's my great, 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 great. Like it was down the line. And this is like when their lineage actually began, kind of thing. I'm like, awesome, wonderful. And what needs to happen here for this life to resolve itself and the conflicts of this life and trauma of this life to be healed for you? And they said they had to bring in all, they needed to bring in all those souls because their guides were telling them that. And the guides spoke, and she gave me some insight on what has to happen and how the souls need to come in on both sides of that coin, and how when the souls can reach their space of forgiveness, which happens like almost instantly because they're in their light bodies. And so the humanness of the situation isn't necessarily imprinted upon that, but they go through their, we'll call it karma balance, and they go through their forgiveness, they go through their release of that energy, of that experience, of that incarnation. We do some screening around it. And like I said, it's a very quick process because they're not connected to it through the human emotion. They're connected through it through their light body motion, their universal consciousness motion, which is, they're very, because they've chosen not to come back. So they've actually had this agreement with the person that is a part of their lineage that they will be the ones to hold space because they're the tangible connection on Mother Earth, in Mother Earth human vibration. So they can hold that space, so they can come in and do all that healing work. And then all the souls promptly gave us the information that now that because that healing thread of trauma had been released and healed and forgiven and balanced out, that everyone in their lineage would feel this ripple effect, and only those who would still like to experience that trauma, that pain, that suffering would retain it, but it would be softer and easier for them to release it. And those who had no interest in, or it wasn't part of their soul plan, their soul blueprint to experience that would no longer be an opportunity to be triggered and integrated into their incarnation. So that thread of connection would be resolved. So it's a very interesting process, and this is why I love this stuff. So, yeah, and sharing this with you guys is going to be really fun, and it's going to be very interesting, and it's going to be, it could be an ugly cry on TV. So it could be fun. It will be fun because I'm excited to. Holding off on this has been the hardest part, actually, because once I'm aware of something, I'm ready to dive into it. Like when it's revealed itself and it's shown, and I'm like, okay, yeah, I can resonate with this. This is really does need to shift. I'm ready to shift this. I'm usually the guy who's like the next day, let's do this, let's get this done. But timing wise and scheduling wise, it just kind of worked out. So we do it at the end of the day. So, and I'm doing a lot of like trying to ignore the fact that I don't want to tap yet because I want to know the answers, because I just want to see where this takes us, kind of blindly. Not blindly, but not blind, but blindly. And I was like, think about that when I use the word. I'm like, no, I don't need to go back to that. That's a no-go zone. Please, thank you for listening, universe. That's just erased, magic eraser. So that is where we're at. And just reminding you guys. So this week in one of my, because I have all my inspirational ideas while I'm driving. It's my sounding board space. Inviting you guys to do that 30-day gratitude challenge where you pick 3 things about yourself, 3 things about you that you are grateful for, and doing this every day and every morning, and allowing yourself that time to celebrate something about yourself that you would like to celebrate. And the reason that we're doing this, and the reason I got this inspiration, was because we often talk about our life and what we're grateful for, but we often don't give ourselves the credit that we deserve for the journey that we have lived, and the journey that we have overcome, and the things that we have triumphed over, the things that we have yet to discover, or the things that we're holding off on. But taking a moment to celebrate you actually changes the core vibration. It really does begin to activate that creator vibration within you. And it purple princess, and it really does begin to integrate the mindset side of things, where it begins to resolve the mindset from, let's say, the negative talker, the negative voice, to more of a positive coach, positive voice, and positive vibrations. And it's something, it sounds very simple. Do you have a different thing? Yeah, well, I do. And you don't have to. But that is my goal when I am doing this with you guys. And my goal is 3 things, new things every day. because I want to take a bet. Like my goal around this for myself is to sit back and really take a deep observation of who I am and take a deep observation of where I'm at. And I know this is going to reveal some more things, some other things in the fringe area of things of life where maybe I've just swept that shadow of that under the rug. But you don't have to. You can pick the same things. But I would say that's right. But it's not a lot. You think about it, your whole is made up of all these beautiful little pieces. And sometimes when we reveal these pieces to us and a moment to step back and actually honor those little pieces, some of the things I'm grateful for aren't always the good, positive, warm, and fuzzy things. Some of the things that I'm really grateful for are the things that were deep, dark, and ugly, because those things help me choose differently. And so you got to look at yourself as a whole. And parts therapy and hypnosis is something we use quite a bit, where we call it a piece of the whole, and we connect with it. Think about the gratitude as a whole, calling out the little pieces of you and finding a shed of light on everything, and just taking a moment to honor that light, because everything shadow, all the dark pieces of us, all our shadows were once light pieces of us, and they've forgotten how to shine. And yeah, we may not always want to, we don't want to live in that vibration, but we can begin to have that piece remember that it once was light. It once was in a high frequency. It once was a part of us that was glowing brightly. And sometimes taking a moment to be grateful for the things the purpose that it did, helps it realize that it no longer needs to do that purpose anymore, that was then and this is now. You're ready to transform. It wouldn't be the same thing, right? Yeah, but there could be, if that's perfect, have some repeats. Anchor in the celebration of those repeats, because that's what I'm saying. Like, I'm trying to do something different every day, but that doesn't mean you have to. It's about taking action of gratitude for yourself and celebrating who you are, and celebrating the fact that you have lived this incarnation, good, bad, ugly, indifferent, beautiful, amazing, perfect. And you're still here working through, you're still walking forward, you're still creating, you're still experiencing, you're still loving, you're still you. And you is perfection. And we're always striving for perfection. And I don't mean that ego perfection, but I mean that soul perfection, that light perfection. Everything has a purpose, and whether we like it, we don't like it. I'm not here to argue, good, better, different, but everything, in my opinion, in my experience, has a purpose, and that purpose we can dwell in. That purpose we can evolve from, and we can, something never want to repeat again. Don't get me wrong. Do not get me wrong. I never want to repeat some of my history again. But willing to see how that history, how those events, right? You know what, Stone? I gotta tell you, this is the same reason I am grateful for my ex, because without that person in my life, I wouldn't be the person I am today. I wouldn't have the same respect and honor for myself and boundaries, but I also would not have embraced being single and learning how to freaking love being with myself, like being me. And yeah, so I totally get that one. I actually like that. I think that was one of the greatest strengths that I brought into my current relationship, was the fact that I was single for a long time. And at first I hated it. Oh my God. I was like, no, it was the most uncomfortable thing, because I didn't want to be alone. I didn't want to be alone with myself. So I did worked really hard at not being alone with myself. And then I realized how much, because I was blind, to be honest with you, going blind. And just before blind, 2 years before going blind, I really learned how to own it and embrace who I was, no matter what that meant. And but without that person, I don't think I would have, if the events hadn't happened the way they happened, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be sitting in this chair. I wouldn't be doing this, because I wouldn't have had the balls to step outside of the box that I was supposed to live in. So So I'm grateful for that person, because you know what? They definitely helped me realize that I wasn't going to let somebody put me in a box anymore. And I wasn't going to put myself in a box anymore. And I didn't know what that looked like. And I was terrified of it. But God, I'm glad I chose to step outside that box. So yeah, and those things and the strength and the things that you learned and things you have learned, the things you haven't learned yet, but you're getting ready to learn, it just opens up the doorway for possibilities for all those individual pieces to be reframed quickly and easily, and the story to change. We live through our emotional story. We create through our emotional story. We create in our emotions. So when we're doing this gratitude, these 3 things about yourself, you are creating space for that vibration surrounding yourself to begin to shift into a higher space of leveling up and an unlocking of the brilliance that is you. So that's the 30 days. And I would suggest adding it to your practice. You don't need to make it a bigger practice, but just add it to it. I'm just completely single for me. Been a journey of exploring, right? It's an interesting journey, actually. It's a very interesting journey, the whole of being single. And I actually was really good at it. And I wasn't in the dating world. I think I went on one date, and the person was just very judgmental and very rude and mean to like other people, which like Jabba Juice, and got a Jabba Juice. Like, that's my dating experience right there. And didn't like the way he was talking about people who were coming in and out of that store. And I was like, you know what? You're not the type of person I want to be around. And I got up and I left. And that was like the last person that was like the only date I went on. And I just realized then that it wasn't about that. And for me, I didn't really need that, because I didn't want to experience that. And so I decided from that point that I was going to discover who I was and what that meant like. So I was going to date myself. So I went to movies by myself. I went to dinners by myself. It was a lot of fun, actually. That was like one of the most freeing things I did was learn how to go to the movies on my own. And I know, like, now we know about the movies and blah, blah, blah. But that was a big thing. Like, that was a hard one for me, actually, was to go to a movie by myself. I remember feeling so insecure and nervous about that I was at the movie theaters by myself, and I totally was like telling myself this story that everybody was staring at the person single. I was like, and I realized, I'm like, fuck, they're not staring at me. Like, no. Yeah. Right. So, but that was my breakout into embracing and dating myself, and embracing being alone and single, and just really taking on the world and discovering what I looked like in the world without somebody else being a part of that journey. And honestly, when I met Josh, he knew. I was like, nope, I'm still enjoying being single. I love the fact that I am single, and that's the way it's going to stay. You can be a friend. And it took he waited a long time, actually. He just stayed in the background for a long time until he thought that it was the right time. So it was actually all him, because if it wasn't for him, I'd still be single, and it'd be like 15 years later. But yeah, so I get it. And it's a cool journey. I'm not going to lie. I'm very happy to have him, but I'm a different person, and we work really well together because we both love our space and we both love doing stuff together. And I think it really brings a different balance, because I learned how to love myself. I learned how to be with myself. I learned how to enjoy the things that I enjoy without a partner, and this will sound bad, but not having to consider somebody else's feeling while going through the feelings and what they wanted to do, and whether they wanted to do what I wanted to do or they wanted us to do it. Like, that was a big one for me, because in my long relationship with my ex, and we were together a long time, and we were together when we were super young, that I never put myself first. And being single was something that allowed me to learn how to put myself first and say, you know what, I'm going to go do this. If you want to join me, cool. You can go do, you got something else you want to do, and not have any kind of emotional attachment to whether my partner said yes or no. So, yeah, it was a big thing. Going to the movies alone, haven't been. Well, that's okay. You still did it. Yeah, I did love it after, Alex. I was like, boom, this is fun. It was get my bag of popcorn. Yep, and my salt and vinegar spread for my popcorn. And you know what? The silly thing about that is, I like a lot of salt and vinegar spread on my popcorn. Nobody else likes as much as I see when you're single and you go to the movie by yourself. You could put as much of that bad boy as you want on your popcorn and nobody's going to complain but you. So, yes, little things, people. Took joy in all the little things. And that's about, another part of this, like, gratitude of you is taking joy in the little things about you that you probably haven't taken a moment to celebrate in a long time, and that deserve celebration, deserve your acknowledgement, your acceptance, your understanding, your love, your, just giving that little pieces of you that moment in the light to be totally and utterly celebrated. So, because you're amazing and you're worth that celebration, and all those individual pieces that make up your whole, they're worth the celebration too, because they've been a part of your incarnation. Whether they've been an active part or a dormant part, they have been a part of your incarnation, and they will continue to be a part of your incarnation, whether it's the role that they're in now, the role that you're redefining them into. Now that is where the free will, that is where the power of you comes into play, because no piece of you won't listen to you. You can redefine roles of pieces of you, of your whole, and so that they are working in the same direction as you're moving into. So you can redefine your story whenever you choose. Remember that. And I hope that this gratitude practice, it may shed light on things, it may reveal things, but it also may really, really solidify that beautiful story that you're about to create, and you are creating, and where you're creating from. So that is morning apple cider vinegar water, and aka my version of coffee right now until I hit my 90 minutes. And that is coffee and conversation with Jen and us and you. And thank you. So I hope that you guys are having an amazing weekend. I hope that you guys get some time off, and I hope the weather gets warm so you can enjoy, or if you like the cold weather, I hope it's a little bit cooler for you. And we will be back live on Monday for Monday meditation. We will also be looking at different shows throughout the week, and we have the class on Tuesday. And for those of you who I have started a Patreon account where there will be new things going to that exclusive to Patreon about self-healing and different tools and techniques that we'll be adding there. So if that's something you're interested, send me a line. I can send you the link. Something new that I am exploring. Thank you. Oh, you guys are amazing. And just know how grateful, and I want you to know, when a part of my gratitude practice every day is thanking you guys for being here, for your support, for your love, for your, energy and time that you spend coming to my shows, being here, whether it's organized, whether it's just a random live. So thank you for being you, because you guys make this world a better place. And I am very thankful that I get to be a part of your world that gets it a better place. So, all right, guys, have a great weekend. I'll see you Monday and talk to you guys soon. Cheers.